Yes, sirree. Here we are back at it, El Rush Limbaugh. It is Friday on the Excellence in Broadcasting Network.
And now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Telephone number 800-282-2882. Email address elrushlimbaugh at eibnet.us. And I intend to start on the calls here in the monologue segment of the hour. I got a good roster up there. And you know the purpose of a caller is to make the host look good. Not by being complimentary, slavishly devoted, none of that. You make the host look good by inspiring the host and drawing out of the host even more that people know is in there. 800-282-2882. Okay. The budget deal. It's a big deal. It's a 2-year budget deal. We talked about this yesterday. And remember, I had an idea. There's a lot of people wondering about what is going on. All of this spending, combined with the tax cuts, deficits as far as the eye can see. And it doesn't seem like it's very Republican. It doesn't seem like it's very conservative. And they shut down the government for a couple hours, and they got it reopened last night when the deal was agreed to. Trump signed it early this morning, so essentially it's a 2-year budget deal. The main thing that I think, and I admit this is cynical, but I think it's relevant. I think a lot of Republicans voted for this thing just to ensure they will not be accused of shutting down the government for 2 years now. Do not doubt me on this. Do not that being accused of shutting down the government is something they think they're going to be guilty of, whether they have anything to do with it or not, every time it's charged. And this is how they generally do. They kick things down the road to avoid dealing with them. And this kicks the government shutdown 2 years down the road. To heck with whatever else happens here. There's massive amounts of defense spending, but discretional spending is skyrocketing. It's going through the roof. There's not even any pretense here at balancing a budget. There's not even any pretense here of making the government smaller. There's not even a pretense. The conservative caucus, the Freedom Caucus in the House, beside itself, this is not what we ran on. This is not what we've campaigned on. We went out there, every time Obama wanted to spend a dime on something, we complained about it. Now nobody says a word when this spending goes through the roof except for Rand Paul. Yeah, well, he was being vilified. Look, Rand Paul's not clean and pure as a wind-driven snow on this. Now everybody's quoting this soundbite of his, which is good. I mean, he's saying that there isn't any, the conservative Republicans exist when the Democrats are in power. When the Republicans are in power, conservatism vanishes. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what he said. But look, he also voted for the tax cut. Now, in a lot of people's view, the tax cut is a budget buster because the tax cut is going to short the government $1 trillion, they say, which is bogus. That's not going to happen. But the way these people in Washington score it, it is. They don't score things dynamically. They look at the tax cut, how many taxes are being cut, how many dollars, and they subtract that from how much money Washington got the previous year, and they think Washington's going to be down $1 trillion. Therefore, the deficit is going to be up, and the national debt going to be up $1 trillion. Well, that's not going to be the case. There's going to be more money rolling into Washington than these guys can count. But they don't score it that way. But my point is, with everybody claiming that the tax cut was going to raise the deficit, there's Rand Paul right in there voting for it. So while he may be scoring big on trying to stop this vote last night because it's budget busting, you could say that he busted the budget by supporting the tax cuts the way they look at it. Now, here's Matt Getz. Matt Getz, a Republican from Florida. He was on Cavuto Coast to Coast on the Fox Business Network this afternoon. And Cavuto said, do you think the gain of tax cuts will overcome the apparent hypocrisy of a party that talks big on containing spending but is now spent on the issue?
We better hope so. I didn't vote for that spending, but I think that at the end of the day, people will vote based on whether or not they believe their personal economic conditions are better or worse. If you were to judge us today, people are doing better than they did in the Obama economy.
They are. They are. So his point is, and it's true, we don't know what the dollars are going to be, but this tax cut is going to result in much more revenue flowing to Washington than anybody in the swamp is counting. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but it's dynamic scoring versus static. And they don't score things at the CBO or anywhere else in a dynamic way. They just run the numbers, and they've concluded that Washington's going to have $1 trillion less this year than it had last year. And that automatically means a deficit of at least $1 trillion this year. Well, that's not going to happen, because more jobs are going to be created, more taxpayers are going to be created, and more taxpayers, even at lower rates, are going to be paying more. The government is collecting record amounts of money already. Just through every form of taxation, revenue is at record levels. They announce it every quarter, and it's through the roof. But the question, and you don't have to answer this if you have, like, people are on hold, and if you don't want to talk about this, fine. But if you do want to answer this, I'm putting it out there. Does this budget bother you? If so, why? And if not, why not? Because in the textbook of conservatism, every bit of this is a no-no except for the military spending. Every bit of it's a no-no. Every bit of this could be chalked up to major, huge hypocrisy. You guys, you ran on balancing the budget, you run on reducing spending, and you get into office, and my God, we're spending more in a 2-year budget than we ever have. Folks, as I said yesterday, the budget never gets smaller. I don't care who's in office. I don't care who's in power. I don't care who's where, doing what and why. The budget never gets smaller. It never has. The national debt has continued to grow. It has never gotten smaller, been reduced. The annual deficit, it's a seesaw, goes up and down, but it has not been balanced since 1995. We did have a surplus. Remember, in the late 90s that the Clintons wanted to turn into, I forget what it was, but we did have a budget surplus for a year or two. And had it been, or had it stayed in the Treasury, we would have had a balanced budget. But Clinton used it as, what was the defense dividend or some such thing? Yeah, the peace dividend, right, the peace dividend. They lopped it into some, I forget what. But Washington never spends less money in total. It's never happened. The national debt has never gotten smaller. And while all this has been happening, we have been listening to doom and gloom preached to us every year about it. And there hasn't been, the doom and gloom that's been predicted related to budgeting hasn't happened. Now, we could be, as I so astutely observed yesterday, we could be in the middle of it finally mattering here, and we can't see it. The dragon could be at the door, and we don't know it. The monster could be lurking out there, and we just don't see it. But the monster, we've been told it's always there. And with every new budget, the monster's going to eat all of us. And here we still are. So I just like to know, does this bug you? Does it bother you? If so, why? If not, why not? There isn't any wrong answer, so don't think you're going to get your head chewed here if that only happen if you're really factually wrong about something. But your opinion on this is not going to be ridiculed, lambasted, so don't be frightened about any of that.